Today, I want to talk about something a little bit different. I want to talk about what considerations we in the Second Amendment community need to think about when we're contemplating whether we support more illegal or legal immigration, if any, into the United States, and how to think about some of these issues going forward. It's a big question. We should talk about it. Stay tuned. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gunner, constitutional attorney, member of the U.S. Supreme Court Bar, and New York Times bestselling author. If you haven't subscribed to the Four Boxes Diner Second Amendment channel, please do so. Show your love for the right to keep and bear arms, and also feel free to join us on Twitter as well. Okay, folks, a little bit different conversation, but I think this is important for us to have. I'm not going to take an official position on this. I just want to talk about it so we can reflect. Here's the issue. We know that we have an open border in the South where immigrants are mostly coming in illegally from Central America and from Mexico and beyond, and who knows where else they're coming from. We also know there's been a massive influx of immigration, both illegal and legal, over the last many decades. And as you know, under the way the federal courts have historically interpreted the 14th Amendment, if an individual is born on American property, with very narrow exceptions dealing with ambassadors, for example, if you are born on American soil, regardless of where your parents come from, you are deemed an American citizen. Some people refer to this activity as the anchor baby activity, where a child is born here on American soil, automatically becomes an American citizen, and then serves as an anchor for bringing in their parents or perhaps extended family to the United States. But I don't want to talk about those issues in this particular video. I have a very specific question, maybe even concern, about what this immigration activity, what these immigration activities may mean for our future right to keep and bear arms. And I'm not going to do all the research and statistical analysis of this. I don't have time for this, but I want to flag the issue because I think some of you out there may be interested, and maybe some of you can look into this on behalf of the Second Amendment community. So as I see it, the issue with potential immigrations coming to the United States, whether it be legal or illegal, is this as it relates to our gun rights. If you think about where these individuals are coming from, and it could be legal or illegal, it could be either. They are coming from parts of the globe that have no experience or tradition involving private self-defense or the private lawful ownership of firearms, or again, the private lawful ownership of firearms for the purposes of private self-defense. So if you look around the globe, you see that individuals that come from Central America, Latin America, who has guns in these places? Well, realistically, the people that have guns in these places are either the police, in some form of a police state, many of whom may be corrupt. It varies, of course, but they may be. So you got government police with guns, and they may not be pleasant individuals, or maybe they're perfectly nice. It varies from place to place, state to state, country to country, county to county in these places. But beyond the police having guns, who else has the guns? Well, they're the cartels, they're the drug dealers, the criminal class, and criminals. So when these individuals come finally to the United States and they get here, whether it be illegally or legally, they have no tradition or experience with private ownership of firearms by law-abiding citizens of any country. Beyond that, of course, a lot of these individuals come from countries where they really were treated more like serfs, subjects, rather than citizens. So when they come to the United States, they really have a mentality of they're subjects to the government and not citizens, a different culture. And this is not just Latin America and Central America, of course. If you look across the globe to Asia, there's very little understanding of private gun ownership. There's no private gun ownership in, for example, China or Taiwan and these places, to speak of. Japan, the shogun traditions of the shogun warriors, just to discourage people from having firearms because the shogun warriors use their swords. So there's a long tradition in Asia, not to mention, of course, we know the anti-gun countries of Europe. You can't use a gun for self-defense in Great Britain. Did you know that? If you're in the United Kingdom, you can have some guns, but that's for hunting. And if you use a gun for self-defense, that's not allowed. So basically, if you look all over Europe and you look all over Asia, So if these individuals come from Europe or Asia, with some exceptions, but very few, and they come to the United States, legally or illegal, doesn't matter, and they come to the United States, and guess what? Again, they come from a culture where the people and the governments and the laws of those countries from which they came, no culture of private gun ownership. So I am a little concerned where you have massive immigration, whether it be legal or illegal, as I see it, into the United States with a bunch of people that A, have a culture of being subjects and not citizens, and not being responsible, perhaps, for taking care of themselves with firearms to protect themselves and their family. They have a different mentality. They come from a different culture. And likewise, the culture that they may have come from is the only people that have guns are the government, the police, and those may be corrupt or not. It depends on where they come from. And of course, the gangs, criminals, thugs, cartels, and so on and so on. So as you can see, the issue I'm flagging for the Second Amendment community is that if you bring in this massive influx of immigrants, which we've been doing for years, and especially in the Biden administration, and even if these people somehow become American citizens or their children become American citizens so they can vote, you can see the potential problem of these cultures coming here without this tradition and understanding and history of private gun ownership. We must never forget that as Americans, we come from a culture of private gun ownership, hugely so, as we saw from how we fought the American Revolution against the Brits. It was armed citizens, whether it be select militia like the Minutemen, or just ordinary militia, or just ordinary citizens, fighting the British, the largest army in the world at the time, the Empire, the British Empire, and we won our liberty at the end of a barrel of a gun. We won because of private gun ownership and guns. So we have a tradition of American citizenship that includes the right to property, the right to vote, and the right, of course, to bear arms. This is a much different culture than the vast majority of countries in the world, and that is a concern I have, that when you bring people from these other cultures to the United States, will they have a much different view, and a view that the only people that should have guns are the government? That is certainly not something I subscribe to. But again, if you import masses of people who have that view other than we have when it comes to individual liberty and the right to keep and bear arms, and they start to vote, well, you may get a much different outcome in terms of who gets elected, and thus who gets to become judges, and how the perception of the U.S. Constitution, including the Second Amendment, is applied to our liberties. This is, again, a video for just something to think about. I'll let you guys all reflect on the idea, but it was something I was thinking about. I wanted to bring it to your attention and see what comments you guys might have down below, and any suggestions or ideas about how we address this potential issue, if you think it's an issue at all. Maybe it's not even an issue, but I want to flag it nonetheless. Okay, folks, I hope you learn a little bit something here on this thought experiment. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and we'll see you again soon here at the Four Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.